All right, so we're in a new month, and the month of Kislev is a great month. It's a month of miracles. It's a month of dreaming, a month of sleep. There's 10 dreams recorded in Torah, and they all happen in the Torah portions around this time of year. According to the Sefer Yetzirah, every month has an energy that belongs to that month, an area of healing, an astrological sign, a Hebrew letter, a Hebrew tribe, and most times a holiday. So it's interesting that the area of healing is sleep, that, you know, in some months, the area of healing is action. I remember I was in the Adirondacks when it was Elul, and we were talking a lot of times that the action for the activity for that month was small actions, beginning actions. And every month has a different action connected to it. So the action, the area where the action is happening is sleep. That's the area of action. So that's interesting because
I like that one.
You know, in order to sleep, that you have to let go of action. And the energy is the energy of rekindling dreams. So just before we even talk about all the other aspects of the month, I was just listening to a beautiful teaching from Chaya Lester, which I posted on my Facebook. You can look at it after. And she started off with a story, and she said that there were two people and they were out somewhere, and one of the people lost his keys. So they were looking and looking all around for the keys. And then eventually she said to him, "So where are your keys?" And he said, "Well, they're over there in the field over there." So she said, "Well, why are we looking here and not over there?" So he said, "Well, here's where the light is. It's dark over there." So she said that, you know, she's a psychotherapist, and the idea of looking for our keys, for our treasures, for what it is that we need to work on, or healing or whatever, to look in the dark. We don't like to look in the dark spaces. We like to look where the lights are on, and we like to look in the light spaces. But as soon as we enter into healing work, and whatever kind of healing work it is, if it's psychological healing work or energy healing work, or, you know, a lot of different kind of healing work. So it's really to go into the parts of ourselves that are generally hidden and uncover that which is covered usually. So we have a reticence to go into the darker places. We like to stay where the lights are on and where it's comfortable. So this month has two aspects to it: the aspect of rekindling dreams. So the wording, and this is one of my favorite books, I refer to it many times, by Melinda Ribner, all about the different months, rekindling dreams. So what does it mean to connect to our dreams? So many people recommend that when you wake up in the morning and you've been dreaming, that you should write down your dreams the minute you wake up, so that you can have some kind of grasp on them. And if you do anything else, you know, look at your phone, go to the bathroom, you know, do whatever. I mean, you can definitely wash your hands and say Modeh Ani, but if you don't grab those dreams, they run away. So once you've written them down, to try to connect to them and see what it is that your unconscious, subconscious, you know, is trying to tell you. So the aspect of this month is the value of dreams and the value of getting in connection to those levels of consciousness that we usually let stay, that we usually like to keep hidden. And then the aspect of sleep, we in a a stage of living where it's go, 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 and to give ourselves permission that actually sleeping is a great thing, it's a good thing, it's a regenerative thing, it's a nurturing thing, it's a, you know, it's a really beneficial thing when we have so much of that headspace of I've got to accomplish, I've got to accomplish, I've got to accomplish. So Kislev comes, and the work is allowing ourselves and preparing ourselves and giving us permission to have that connection with sleep. So the next aspect of the month, and this is all drawing from Sefer Yetzirah, which is supposedly written by Avram Avinu, that every month has characteristics. It has a letter, it has a tribe, it has a work, it has a chush, it has a this, it has a that. So is the astrological sign of it is Sagittarius, or the centaur, or keshet as it is in Hebrew, keshet because of the bow and arrow. And the centaur is the mythical figure who apparently in different mythologies, the centaur is the healer figure who embodies the connection between heaven and earth, or between the physical and the spiritual. And Kislev is a really holy month. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which was yesterday, is the day that the Lubavitcher Rebbe recovered from a heart attack. He had a heart attack, I think, in a Simchas Torah or Shmini Atzeret, and then Rosh Chodesh Kislev, he came back, he recovered. Kislev is the month when the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, was released from prison on Yud Tes Kislev. Yud Tes Kislev. And the whole thing about that was that Reb Shneur Zalman was arrested because in Russia, he was collecting money for the Jewish settlement in Eretz Yisrael and sending money to Yidden who had gone to settle in Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael was under the jurisdiction of Turkey, and Turkey did not have good relations with Russia at the time. So when they intercepted and found that he was sending money to Israel, which was under Turkish dominion, he was arrested and put in jail. On a spiritual point of view, he was shown visions and dreams and Navua that he wasn't just arrested because of sending money and being arrested because of literal reasons that were going on in Russia politically. The Mitnagim or the Misnagdim actually were the ones who let the Russian authorities know that he was sending money and helped to frame him, which is not a great thing that one set of Jews did to another. But he was led to believe that in Hasidic philosophy or Chabad history, they always talk about a kitrog. There was a decree from on high, because Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi was teaching Hasidut to people, and was this a good thing to do or not? Because Hasidut comes from Kabbalah, it's kind of Kabbalistic ideas made user-friendly in a user-friendly way by bringing Kabbalistic ideas kind of down to earth. And then he was put in jail. And he was led to believe that on high, they were debating whether this was a good idea, this disseminating of Chassidus all around, you know, not just for select learned people, but, you know, dispersing it and making it available, just like the Baal Shem Tov did. And when he was released from jail, for Hasidim, it was not just a personal victory that the Alter Rebbe was released, but it was also victory that Hasidut, which is the revelation of the hidden aspect of Torah, was given a go-ahead. That instead of him being jailed and imprisoned indefinitely, he was freed, which spiritually speaking was a go-ahead to reveal the hidden parts of Torah. So this is a theme now in Kislev, that the revelation of what is usually hidden. So the same thing with the Baal Shem Tov, who was the originator of Chassidus, that when when the Baal Shem Tov was able, through mystical avoda, through his ability to really meditate deeply and allow his soul to go up on levels of spiritual elevation, the Baal Shem Tov was able to come to the soul of the Mashiach. And he said to the Mashiach, when are you going to come? And the famous answer is that the Mashiach said to the Baal Shem Tov, when the well springs of your teachings have spread over all corners of the earth. So what is the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov? Again, it's the teachings of what is hidden, the mystical aspects of Torah, that they should become not hidden. They should become revealed. And Karina's reminding me that part of the miracles of Kislev, many miracles, but also on the 8th day of Hanukkah, Karina's reminding me, Trump pardoned Rabashkin. That was a coming out of jail and a revelation in a way of coming out. So it's all very well to have revelations and to have things hidden, and then this revelation of hiddenness. But in order to have hiddenness revealed, you know, there's that famous pasuk, lahagid baboker chasdecha ve'emunascha baleilot, right? Tov lahagid, tov lahodot lashem, tov lahodot lashem, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chasdecha. So when it's light, when there's revelation, we can speak of Hashem's kindness and his chesed. But when it's dark and things are concealed and we're in this dark space, so what do we need? So in the darkness, welcome, Suri, in the darkness we need faith. We need to be able to have trust and faith. Lehagid baboker chasdecha ve'emunah. We need faith in Hashem in the nighttime. So the Hebrew letter for this month, is Samach. And Samach is a letter that is connected to Somech, is kind of like a leaning on, or Somech Noflim. Hashem saves and he helps those who are fallen. Somech Noflim. That's what we say in Ashrei. So the letter of the month is the Samach, which is this beautiful circle, this containing letter. And the idea is that in this time, which is a time where there's darkness, the days are getting shorter, the light is shorter, the nights are longer, there's more and more of a concealment. So when there's more and more of a concealment, we need to activate the faith factor and the trust factor. But it's not just a time of concealment, it's also a time of miracles and the miraculous. So the letter that came before, the letter that comes before Samach in the Aleph base is Nun Samach, and when you read it backwards, it's Nes, right? Nun Samach is Nes. So there is an aspect that the letter of this month is this containing circle, you know, vessel of holding of the Samach, but paired with the Nun that came before brings us the idea of Nes and miraculous. So it's interesting because we're talking about, welcome Shoshana, we're talking about going into the darkness, not being afraid of the subconscious, connecting to sleep, connecting to dreams, and then at the same time, this idea of trust and somech, like being able to lean up against something. So if you're fearful, then you don't want to sleep and you don't want to dream. And you don't want the darkness to come. In order to like abandon yourself to sleeping and abandon yourself to dreaming and in a way abandon yourself to the work of going into those hidden dark corners of your own history or your subconscious, or you work with a healer and they start digging around and finding all kinds of things. There has to be a little bit of trust that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, that whatever needs to be, whatever lurking in the darkness needs to be found so that there can be healing. Now, I'm just going to interject this flow and add in my own personal little, I don't know if it's my little ad campaign, my little pitch, that we are so close to Mashiach now, according to so many different ways of calculating, that everything is accelerating so fast. And there's so many people who tuning into levels of dreaming, levels of intuition. There's so many people who are healers. There's such an abundance of, aromatherapists and massage therapists and these kind of therapists and those kind of therapists, and everybody and his brother and sister are some kind of healer. Why? Because we're coming close to a new way of being, and we need to heal all the old stuff. We need to, it could have been fine. Let's say I've been married, Bezrat Hashem, Baruch Hashem, for close to 34 years now. I think I just had my 34th anniversary. And I could think for many years in our marriage, there were so many things that needed to be dealt with. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to deal with them because, holding a new marriage together was demanding. And there were things to deal with that I just wasn't ready to deal with. But Carol, you having a question or you just?
Just thinking.
Okay. But then years go by and years go by and years go by, and slowly you start dealing with more and more things. Well, now we're at a time when it's really important to deal with everything. That's why in the Ami magazine and the Mishpacha magazine, they have everybody pouring out all of their stuff because everything has to be healed. So the fear of going into the darkness and the fear of going into sleep and the fear of digging up, we've got to bring everything onto the table so we can get to healing, because we want to be in good shape. We want to be ready for this shift. What does it mean to be ready for this shift? It means that we don't want to be bogged down in old baggage, so that we want to have all our vessels and all our consciousness and all our machinery ready to relate to things from a higher perspective, from a trusting perspective, from a God consciousness perspective. We want to relate to people in a loving way. We don't want to have resentments. We don't want to have old arguments. We don't want to have pain. We don't want to have suffering. We don't want to have vendettas. We want to move ahead clean of baggage. So how do you do that? Well, you got to, clean out. It's kind of like colonic time. So I feel that, people can't just say, we're waiting for Mashiach, we're waiting for Mashiach, Mashiach should come, Mashiach should come. We got to do the work. We got to clean ourselves out and get transparent. It's interesting, the word for face is plural, panim. It's not just, it should be pan. You have a beautiful face. Why do we have panim? So we have a face on the inside, and we want, first of all, we put on different faces for different circumstances. That's one of the reasons why the word panim is plural, but you really want your outer face to match your inner face. You want to be translucent. Like a company now that's online, it puts up all its finances because everything has to be transparent. So we also need to be able to be not ashamed of what's going on in the dark, to be able to pull it up so we can heal it. And so that's part of this aspect of approaching one's dreams, approaching one's sleep, and being able to be comfortable with that aspect of things. So, okay. And then the last thing about Kislev, because it's really very beautiful, and there's many other anniversaries and wonderful things happening in Kislev. There's a whole list of them. I think the Rebbe Marash's birthday, I think the Rebbe's anniversary with his Kala Chayamushka, a lot of beautiful things happening in Hanukkah. But one more thing, every tribe, every month is connected to a tribe, and the tribe of this month is Binyamin, and every month is also connected to a precious stone. And the precious stone of this month is called the Achlama. And the Achlama is how you say in Hebrew, amethyst. So it means that on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, he would have his 12 stones, each one corresponding to a different tribe. And when the Kohen Gadol would ask the Choshen Mishpat a question, I'm sure many of you know, different stones would light up and give an answer. So the Achlama is the amethyst. It's the stone that belongs to Binyamin. But also, when you spell out the word Achlama, Aleph, Ches, Lamed, Mem, Hey, you have the word Chalom in Achlama. So the idea of dreaming is inside the name of the stone. So the name of the stone, Achlama, Aleph, Ches, Lamed, Mem, Hey. And the word to dream is Chalom, Ches, Lamed. You can write it with a vav or without the vav, Mem. So Achlama has this aspect of Mem, of Chalom contained in it, which is another aspect of this dreamy, subconscious, which goes really well with the miraculous. Because how does it go with the miraculous? We have to let go of the rational mind to allow for this dreaming, to allow for this, this subconscious, to allow for some of this stuff. That's where there's, in the faith, in the handing over, that's where there's the opening for the miraculous. If we're holding on too tight to the rational, it can't happen because of this, it can't happen because of that. This is how things look, this is what they need to be. Well, Kislev is a month of miracles. It might look like things are going in this way, might seem that according to all the rational XYZ, this is going to happen, but you have to be ready for miracles in Kislev because it's a miraculous month. And the more we can connect to the fact that we are a miraculous people and our history is miraculous and Hashem can save us in the blink of an eye, the more we open to the fact that anything can happen and we don't have to, be locked into how we think things are going to be. So that's just the introduction with the Kislev. And I personally love the idea of learning about the months because I feel like every month, the word for month is chodesh, which connects to the word chadash. So every month we have like a newness and a new way of being and a new focus for how we want to approach the next period. And there's something in it that it's a new energy with a new opportunity and new avoda. And we also learn that every month Hashem sends down his shefa, his blessings down into the month in slightly different ways. And I don't know how much I want to go into now, but just to say that usually we write Hashem's name Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. That's the normal way of writing his name. But every month, there's a way that the energy comes in slightly differently, and one can, the letters of Hashem's name can take a different order. So I'll just tell you what it is, but I don't feel like explaining it now. If anyone wants to ask me later, we can discuss it. But in this month, it's Vav, Yud, Hey, Hey. So in the upper worlds, it's a Vav, which is a channel coming down, then a Yud, and then in the lower worlds, it's very expanded, very expanded. So that could be a lot of revelation down here and a channel up above. Okay, so that's Kislev. Now getting into the Parsha. So one of my most favorite quotes from the Alter Rebbe is that we should live with the times. And living with the times means that we literally live with the Parsha. And that's why it's a Chabad minhag that on Monday, everybody should be, if they're doing what the Rebbe wants, should be learning Rishon of the Parsha with Rashi, and on Tuesday, Sheni, and on, Sunday, Rishon, Monday, Sheni, Tuesday, Shlishi, Wednesday, etc. And that each day you read a part of the Parsha with Rashi, and that you're really carrying the Parsha with you and carrying the personalities of the Parsha with you. So we're coming into Toldos, and this is a very intense Parsha, because this is really where the relationship between Esav and Yakov takes a radical turn. So it starts off that these are the offspring of Yitzchak, son of Avraham. Avraham begets Yitzchak, and then it says Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Rivka, daughter of Basuel, sister of Lavan, as a wife for himself. So just starting with Ve'ele toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham holed et Yitzchak. So reading commentaries on that, they stress that there's a really strong differences of ways of being between Avraham and Yitzchak. So we've said before that Hashem creates the world, and he created it for the sake of Chesed, and Avraham is representing Chesed, and then Yitzchak is this completely different energy, that he's the son of Avraham, but he's a very different energy. So Yitzchak, we heard that he, by the way, Corina, when I mentioned at the table about the Akedah, and my son Yehudi also said he had never heard that Perush about the sacrifice as we were speaking. And I said to him that I told you that there's always, there are many different Perushim, and I'm sure the rabbi had good reason to say what he was saying, but my son Yehudi, who's a literalist, he wasn't sure that rabbi had a good reason to say all the things he was saying. He felt like it contradicted what was written in the text, and he had a lot of strong opinions, but we can talk about that after. So anyway, so Yitzchak comes down from that Akedah, and he comes down from the Akedah. He wasn't able to get married before. The explanations that he got a new neshama over there, that previously his neshama wasn't ready for marriage. Now he has this huge, I would say pretty intense experience. I don't know if I should use the word traumatic, but intense. And he stays up on the mountain for a while, doesn't come down with Avram. But once he comes down, maybe it's 2 years later, he's ready to get married, and he marries, Eliezer goes to Avram's brother, looks for a shidduch, and now we know that he marries Rivka, and Rivka doesn't have children. She was barren. Hashem hears, the way it's written in the Pasuk says, Hashem allowed himself to be entreated by him. I'll just read it in the Hebrew, and I'll give you an explanation what I heard. V'yitar Yitzchak Lashem lenochach ishto ki akara hi v'ya'ater lo Hashem v'tahar Rivka ishto. So I read an explanation of this from Shlomo Carlebach. So basically, the traditional explanation is that Hashem heard Yitzchak's prayer more than he heard Rivka's prayer, because Yitzchak came from, a family of righteous parents, and Rivka had not such a righteous father. Shlomo emphasized the fact that not only did Hashem hear Yitzchak's prayer, but he actually was praying with Yitzchak. That this translation of he heard his prayer, it's actually that he actually prayed with him, that he wanted as much as Yitzchak wanted for this child, he wanted as well. And then we have this whole beginning of this duality of different aspects of persona. And it starts when the two twins that Rivka, we know Rivka got pregnant with twins. And he has this beautiful word in Hebrew, v'yisrotzu habanim b'kirba, that they were kind of arguing and struggling within her. And she's so tormented by what's going on, by these two twins struggling like this. And then she says, Imkain lama ze anochi, if this is what's going on, that I have these two, this different energies that get awoken when we learn that when she walked past a place of Avodah Zorah, there was like a surging. It's as if one of her children wanted to go and serve Avodah Zorah. When she walked past a place of Kedusha, there's a surging. She's feeling this, tremendous mixed energy going on, and she can't understand what's going on. And she goes to inquire, and she hears about the two nations that are in your womb, two regimes from your inside will be separated. One will become strong from the other, and the eldest shall serve the younger. So Rivka hears about these two personas, and it's very interesting in geopolitically what's going on now. Some of us are listening to Rabbonim who are talking about the current events in terms of this relationship between Esav and Yakov. So right from the beginning, we have these two different children that are both twins, that are both being born, carried by Rivka, with two very different energies. We know that Rivka, when it comes time for Yitzchak to give a blessing, Yitzchak is intending to give the blessing to Esav, and because Rivka intervenes, the blessing goes to Yaakov. And then as a result, Esav wants to kill Yaakov. We know Yaakov runs off. He goes and he lives with Lavan, has his 4 wives. Once Yosef is born, he feels up to being able to come back. According to Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, alav shalom, when he comes back and he bows 7 times, I personally don't know if I agree with this interpretation, but the Lord Rabbi of blessed memory, Jonathan Sachs, says he actually gives the blessings back to Esav. I know that that's a controversial interpretation, but the fact is that there are many rabbis who are feeling that all of this story with Esav and Yakov is being played out right now. And when Yaakov, I'm just jumping ahead a little bit in the story, but when Yaakov has spent his time with Lavan and he's had his 4 wives and he's birthed all of his 12 children, and we kind of learn that he was really waiting for Yosef. Once Yosef was born from Rachel, he felt that he had he had the child that could continue his path in life, really, and that's when he was ready to go back and encounter Esav. We know that Esav was ready to link up with Yaakov right then, and Yaakov said, no, I'm not ready to really join you right now. I'll meet you in Seir. Let me go along on my merry way, slowly in my pace, and I'll meet you in Seir. And the Meforshim always say that Seir is the time of Mashiach, that Yaakov and Esav will meet in the time of Mashiach. So unless you haven't been watching any of the many shiurim online that are talking about this topic, at the end of days, Esav and Yakov make up together and they become peaceful together. And according to the prophecies, Esav actually helps and assists Yakov. And many people are of the opinion that Trump leading America as the symbol of the Western world, and the Western world always being a symbol of Esav, that Trump has been a figure that's been leading America in its turning around to make peace with Yaakov and to actually help Yaakov fulfill his path. And Trump, in a way, moving the embassy and giving us dominion over the Golan Heights and stopping pay for slay and trying to defeat Iran and stripping them of all their power. It's all prophetically in our teachings that at the end of days, Esav is going to help Yaakov. They're going to come together. And that, for many of us, is what's going on right now. But what was happening then? And who is Esav? And why did Yitzchak want to give Esav the bracha? And why was Rivka so clear that the bracha was not supposed to go to Yitzchak, even though Esav, even though Yitzchak felt? So we know that. So the first thing in the story is that it says, first of all, it says the lads grew up and Esav became a man who knows trapping. I'm just reading in English. It's not so nice reading it in English. Esav ish yodea se'id ish sadeh. He was a man who knows trapping, and they talk about trapping being, you know, the ways of speaking. It wasn't just trapping animals. A man of the field, the ish sadeh, and Yaakov ish tam. He was a pure and a more, you could say, wholesome Yoshev Ohalim. He sat and he dwelled in the tents. So if you go to Cheder, you have a very nice, you know, picture of Esav, hairy and very physical, and Yaakov is very spiritual, and he learns in yeshiva, and he's in the tent and all of this. But then you start learning Chassidus, and Chassidus teaches you that really the work to be done is the work in the field. The place where refinement has to come is in the world. The place where things need to be elevated is in the actual materiality of the world. So sitting in the tent and being very pious and being very wholesome is not fulfilling the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation is we come into this world and we've got to transform it. We've got to turn it around. We've got to make it into something different. So looking at the personalities of Avraham and Yitzchak, Avraham is a man of kindness, and he's expansive, and he reaches out, and he's very kind, and he's very loving. Who is Yitzchak? Yitzchak is digging wells. He's trying to go beneath the surface. This is also a little bit of a Kislev, trying to go beneath the surface to what's underneath and extract water, extract goodness, extract holiness from beneath the surface. That's the gevura, that's the concentration, that's the aspect of Yitzchak that is trying to break through to something underneath. So when Yitzchak looks at his two sons and he's thinking, who can go into that earthly physicality and transform it? He's thinking, well, Yaakov is a very nice fellow, but he's not into this. Maybe he's not able. Maybe he's not up for this transformation. Esav, who's a man of the field and who's, kind of really down there in the grime and the dirt, he has the potential to do this transformative work, which really is the work to be done. It is the work to be done. Sitting in the tent and being pious and leaving out the world out there is not why Adam and Chava were sent out of Gan Eden. It's not. So that's why it says that Yitzchak loved, it says, Ve'ehav Yitzchak et Esav. Yitzchak loved Esav for this reason. He felt that he had in him the power to transform the physicality. But Rivka loved Yaakov. Then it says, what happens next? Yaakov was making a stew and Esav came in from the field and he was exhausted. And Esav says to Yaakov, give some for me now, that very red stuff, because I'm tired. And that's why he's called Edom. And Yaakov says, sell as this day your birthright. And Esav says, look, I'm going to die. So of what use is the birthright? And Yaakov says, swear to me this day. And he swears and he sells his birthright. So Reb Shlomo Carlebach says such a beautiful thing on this. He says, Esav was happy to serve God. He has no problem serving God. He just wants his soup first. He wants to eat first, and then later he can serve God. And Shlomo gives a teaching on what is first by you. What is first? What is your main commitment and your main principle? You can't have the soup first and later you'll, have your ruchnias. It's got to be a priority by you. So the way Shlomo, always says these things is very funny, but the way he writes it, sure, God's good, but let me have my soup first. Anyway, so we got the whole story, the replay with Yitzchak telling Avimelech that Rivka is really his sister, not his wife, just like Abraham did with Paro before. There's a replay, and Avimelech gets very upset and he says to Yitzchak, why did you tell me that she's your sister? Now we've all been afflicted with this plague. And then he gets Rivka, he comes back, they get blessed. And then we have the whole story with the blessings. Now, I've explained this before, and I'm going to explain it again, that even though Esav had this incredible power and this capacity to deal with the physical world, deal with the material world, and potentially turn it around, then when Yitzchak was ready to give these blessings, Rivka understood that if Esav would have got the blessings then, Karina will remember this analogy because I've said it maybe every year for the last few years, it would be like giving a lot of money to a drug addict who's not in an AA program. So you don't give a drug addict who's not in AA, who's not in control, you don't give them a huge amount of money and say, this is your Rusha, this is for your college fund, this is for when you get married and you have children and you'll be able to build a house, this is for your future. You don't give that to a drug addict, because a drug addict will just spend it right then and possibly overdose. So you can't do that. So Rivka was absolutely clear that you can't give this blessing to Esav, because potentially maybe he's going to do all those things, but you can't give it to him now, because now he's going to, he wouldn't be able to do right with that blessing. So she orchestrates that Yaakov ends up dressing in Esav's clothing, putting on the hairy skins on his arms, and he gets the blessings. Now, Chassidus gives a very interesting explanation about the hairy skins on his arm, because I said that Yaakov was sitting in the tent and being very wholesome and very pious, but the world's not going to be transformed by wholesome and pious and sitting in the tent and just being very pure. You've got to go out and engage with the world. So putting on these skins, the animal skins to impersonate Esav, is in a way getting more hands into the physical world, symbolized by those skins. And Yaakov has to transform himself and get a little bit more Esav-like in order to be able to receive that blessing. Now, as Shlomo says in his essay, which is really beautiful, he's that blessing that Yaakov gets from Yitzchak it's a huge blessing. And he says, can you imagine, it's been so hard for us as Yidden as it is, that if we wouldn't have got that blessing, you know, how much harder our lives would have been, because that blessing has so much, in Reb Shlomo's words, he said that Yitzchak's blessing to Yaakov is mamish keeping Yiddishkeit alive till today. That this blessing that Rivka orchestrates, that goes to Yaakov with her Bina Yisera, who, you know, look at these women in the Chumash, how powerful they are. When Sarah says to Abraham that Yishmael and Hagar have to go. And here Rivka changes the whole course of Jewish history when she understands who Yaakov is, who Esav is, that Esav is not ready to receive the bracha. These Jewish women are, you know, changing the whole unfolding of world history from Rivka. So Esav does have good coming from him. We know that Rabbi Akiva was a descendant of Esav, Reb Meir, great-grandson of Esav. Haman's descendants end up learning Torah in Bnei Brak. Eventually, and we can even say, if we look at it in our terms, Trump, we can't have a very naive and vulnerable and sweet and very, you know, very ethereal type of person taking on the whole Western world. We need like an Esav personality. Trump is a great Esav persona but he's done tshuva. He's ruddy, like reddish. He's bombastic. He has an ego. He's got, you know, he likes to, he can take on the whole world. That's what we need of an Esav personality. But now, if in fact Esav, this is what all the rabbis were saying, Trump is the personification now of Esav, he's ready to do tshuva, and he takes all that ego, bombastic, you know, charismatic, powerful persona, but he turns it to do good in the world, and is now bringing the might and the power of America to help Israel. But if he was a wimp, he wouldn't be able to stand up to all the enemies in the Western world, all the people, all the liberals, all the people that were trying to bring him down in the last 4 years. And I haven't given up hope, because it's the month of miracles and the month of Nissim, that it might be another 4 years as well, although this isn't a political shir. So, just this bracha is so powerful that it really lasts through all of history, giving Yaakov tremendous potential and koach, that if we wouldn't have gotten this bracha, our ability to survive in the physical world, not the spiritual world, but the physical world, would have been very compromised. I want to read you the blessings that that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov, and then the blessing that he gives to Esav, because Esav comes right away afterwards and realizes that he lost his blessing, and he gets a sort of like a bidi eved, a second, the next best blessing. But I just want to, before I tell you the blessings, I just want you to say that the timing, if Esav would have come in a few minutes earlier and he would have seen Yaakov there, he would have probably murdered Yaakov and Yitzchak. And so I read some teaching on the fact that it was such orchestrated divine timing that Esav didn't come back, before Yaakov was already on his way out. So that wouldn't have been a pretty picture if he would have come and seen him there. So I'll just read you the blessings, because it's good to know what they are. And this is the blessing that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov. And may Hashem give you of the dew of the heavens and of the fatness of the earth, and abundant grain and wine. People will serve you, and regimes will prostrate themselves to you. Be a lord to your brothers, and your mother's sons will prostrate themselves to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. And that's the bracha. Now it's interesting, because until you look at it inside, you might think it's a spiritual thing, but it's actually a very material thing. Fatness of the earth, the dew of the heavens, grain, wine. Interesting. And then Esav comes and he says to his father, but father, don't you have a blessing left for me? And this is the blessing that Yitzchak gives to Esav. Behold, of the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, and of the dew of the heavens from above. It's a similar wording. By your sword you shall live, but your brother you shall serve. Yet it shall be that when you will be aggrieved, you may remove his yoke from upon your neck. Now, it would be a very nice shir, another shir, follow-up shir, to analyze and compare those two brachas. And I'm not going to do that now, but it's a good thing to do for homework. But coming back to this personal feeling that is being echoed by many, that we're so close to the time of Mashiach, is that this separation of Esav and Yakov has really been going on for centuries. And we've been terribly persecuted by Esav, who is regarded as being the Western world, Rome and the Western powers. And what's been happening in our world now, with the persona of Trump and so many rabbis saying that he is Esav in our times, doing tshuva, the fact of his personality and all the things that make people hate him so much makes him such a great persona to represent Esav, is all those things. Powerful, bombastic, arrogant, not intimidated, and, big appetite person. But if you see him and listen to what he's saying, he's really become a person who's advocating for God and advocating for conservative values and advocating for Israel. And it's not just Israel, it's for life, anti-abortion things, breaking up pedophile rings. A lot of terrible, bad things are actually coming out. Some of that darkness is being excavated right now in, you know, in what's going on in our times. So it's very exciting times, and it's a great month, a month of miracles, a month of healing, and a month of dreaming and sleeping. And I wish everybody a beautiful Kislev, and I will be opening for questions, which I would love to hear, questions and comments. So thank you so much for listening this far.
Thank you.